Welcome back, Commander.
This is
Tryhouse Tales.
Mysteries.
Fact, fantasy, and history have come together to tease the imagination.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
All right, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Tryhouse Tells. Today, we are getting down and dirty with some Templars.
Again.
Continuation. Because if you ever thought you're like, I think I've heard enough about these Templars, you're wrong. There's lots more to say.
There's some weird shit. Like, the last episode was all the facts, the rise and the fall of the Templars. Now we're going to get into the conspiracy theories, the things that they worshipped, possibly. Some occult stuff, too. Like Aleister Crowley, we get into him as well.
And the treasure.
Yeah.
And the treasure.
And
you know
also,
what
you guys should listen to the episode before this one. That way you have some context. Otherwise, you're going to be so confused.
Yes, you know what? I think it's a good time in the state to get into more conspiracies, drama with impeachment, drama with the fucking Iowa caucus and stuff, you know, as usual.
And Corona.
And let's get
and
some.
Corona?
I mean, that's not a conspiracy,
Virus, not
though.
the beer.
Oh, you know, it's super quick though. You know what? Like, just in regard to conspiracy theories with coronavirus, I saw a cartoon meme, and I don't know if it was a joke or not, but it was like, oh, scientists are nearly finished with the coronavirus vaccine. They're just trying to make sure that it also causes autism.
That it doesn't cause autism?
That it does. Like the cartoon was either made by an anti-vaxxer or it's taking the piss out of anti-vaxxers.
Got it. I love it.
I think it's definitely taking a piss.
Yeah.
I approve this message.
I approve of this message. And so, another week has passed where Matt has done amazing research. All I got this past week was hungover and organ pain. Kevin, I don't know what Kevin's status was.
I played Rocket League.
Yeah, I had some of that organ pain as well, Jeremy.
Oh
You got hungover this week, though?
Yeah, dude. Yesterday, I was super hungover because it was my niece's birthday, and it was like pastel themed. So I was wearing some earrings and some leg warmers, and there were beers constantly flowing into my gullet.
I would just like to say everything you said before drinking didn't sound like it was leading up to a hangover.
It
was my niece's birthday. There was pastels, and I was wearing earrings.
We filmed a retro throwback jazzercise video.
Dude, that's how I go hard, man.
Oh my gosh.
No, it does fuck me up though. Like, it makes me mad. I'm like, oh my god, dude, I'm only 26, and I didn't think I drank that much, but for like almost 48 hours after, every time I take a deep breath, my insides hurt, and I'm like, oh my god. Dude, how
much did you have to drink?
Bro, it has to have been cumulatively fewer than 10 drinks. Anyway. Let's talk about the Templars,
that's still like
baby.
a shit ton.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Right.
If you're a bitch, but
somebody
I guess I am one
segue
now.
us to the Templars.
Fuck you, Jeremy. How we can segue in is there is that saying about the Templars in medieval Europe. It was to drink like a Templar, and that meant you got fucking sloshed. Isn't that fucking interesting?
The Templars love to get lit.
Wow. That's...
Yeah.
Did not know this.
Lit.
Considering that they were like holy men. I don't know.
Yes.
Interesting. But they didn't take a vow of... Help me out, guys.
I thought you were going to say abstinence, of celibacy.
No, because they did take abstinence.
Oh my god.
Vows of abstinence.
English is just not... Like, you should stop. You should stop with English. It's not your thing.
Yeah, dude, that's why I write stuff down so I can just read it.
So who were the Templars really?
Yeah, were they heretics? Or, were they holy men? That's kind of the big question that we're going to be talking about this episode. Above all else, the Templars were accused of heresy, and more specifically, among their 104 charges, they were accused of worshiping a severed head.
Yeah, but that's all speculation. That's like all... The guy had motive to plant charges on them. I'm interested with the treasure.
Let's not
we'll
forget
get to the treasure, but right now we're talking about severed heads, bro. So hunker down.
All right, let's cover them severed heads.
Baphomet, even a cat. Let's not forget the 101 other charges were just lower back kisses. So let's not forget that context.
And you will kiss my navel.
And you will kiss the backside of my navel. I call it my babel.
So under torture, actually more than a few Templars confessed to worshiping what some have described to be mummified, disembodied heads. Some say that it was silver or gold, while others insisted this head had 2 or 3 faces.
Okay, first of all, let's get your facts right, witnesses.
Yeah, this entire thing is my Kevin. Point. I feel like they were literally being tortured, and they were like, and the torturers were like, yeah, the head. Talk about the head. Yeah. Are we doing good, King? Are we doing good? And they just get him to talk about this fucking head.
Bro, I get that, man. Like, especially, I can't even imagine being tortured. But me, if I'm, like, in an argument and maybe I'm getting, like, annoyed, like, sometimes I'll fucking lie and say shit just so that's what they want to hear, so I don't fucking have to argue anymore, you know? And if my will is that strong, being the steel trap of fortitude that I am, imagine what would happen to these Templars under torture, you know?
Yeah, these drunk Templars. They're just... But yes, so is there any... So, Matt, what is, like, the proof that they were worshiping this false head other than, like, these testimonies? Is there any?
Bruv, well, no. Well, there is. There is one where they actually have evidence that they had collected 2 silver gilded heads. One of which was... Yeah?
Well, what does gilded mean? Were they like actual heads, or were they like these are just busts we made of silver?
Yeah, I think they were busts made out of silver.
God,
I'm sorry, breasts? Breasts made out of silver?
No, busts. No, like
I'd worship those too.
Some silver titties.
Oh, I'm so glad I set that up. That is...
One of the heads was rumored to be John the Baptist, who had his head cut off by King Herod.
Like, how could they know it's John the Baptist's head? I'm sure the dental records were terrible back then. I'm sure that they're just, just guesswork.
Yeah. Probably. Pretty
fucking
bad.
Liars.
If they even had any teeth to do dental.
I know, bro. I know. These are also, like, this is like 500 years before people thought witches were real. So let's just keep that in context.
Some of the testimonies... so there was one Templar, Ralph of Gizzy, who accused a Master Templar, Hugh de Perrade, of forcing the Templars to worship a head. This head that he mentions is the figure of a demon named Malfa in French, which means ugly.
Worship ugly. Did you guys, as Tryhouse, can we just film like 30-second or 15-second skits of all these moments? And it's just like,
oh my god,
worship this head. Like, I don't want to worship a head. He's like, worship the head. Why? Malfa, worship it.
Why?
I will give you a baguette to worship Malfa. Okay, monsieur.
Isn't it said that the rumors that they worship Baphomet, isn't it said that the term Baphomet might have been a bastardization of the word Muhammad? Because
oh my god,
we're gonna get into that, but I would really like to let's just go through like each one of the testimonies, because this shit gets fucking weird.
I know. I was like, are you a kangaroo, Kevin? Because way to jump the gun. Anyway,
I thought
Australian humor.
Little Australian
Jesus.
Little humor from Dan Under that I brought back up with me.
That accent's really fucking good.
Thank you, man. You just think that because you're American, but thank you.
Yeah, no problem. They're probably like, you sound like dog shit.
But I can get away with it here, and that's all that matters. All right, let's go.
So later, so another Templar, William of Ereblay, testified after torture that Perrade, the same Perrade, had presented a wooden and silver head at Templar gatherings. Then later, that same Perrade confessed himself to having, quote, stroked that same head. Ooh. Yet another Templar, Stephen of Troyes, recalls a head being brought by a priest to one of these secret meetings. It was held by a priest and flanked by 2 Templars, holding 2 large wax candles upon silver candelabras. The head was placed onto a cushion. The Templar described the head as being covered in bluish flesh with a black and white beard. It was adorned with jewels and was apparently the head of Hughes de Payens, who was the first Grand Master of the Order.
I just want
bro.
to say that is huge de penis, remember, from the last episode.
A huge penis.
Sorry.
Yeah, for you listeners, don't get confused. He's saying it weird. It's huge de penis.
No, that's such a specific recollection that's actually, I would believe that person believed what they were saying,
Yeah.
and it's tough in a time without evidence. It also makes me think of like, I wonder if like Futurama, if they got like inspiration from the Templar story to just
my
have like
gosh.
all those like talking heads in the vials.
Talking heads.
Yeah. And it's like, ooh, just like huge de penis will save everybody.
So another one was described as being a head with hollowed carbonical eyes glowing with the light of the sky. Another said it had 2 horns and was able to answer any question. And then
Okay.
it gets even fucking weirder with like going into the Templars. So there are several testimonies describing a rite where Templars worshipped a head which would bring plenty to the land. They wrapped it with corded rope and then unwrapped it to tie it around their own waist. This ritual is in line with a kind of esoteric Catholicism called Catharism. So they were Catholic Gnostics who believed in two like sibling gods. So one of which was the good God of the New Testament, and the other was the evil God of the Old Testament, sometimes referred to as the father of Satan. I just think that's freaking fascinating.
Dude, that's
That
so
they-
like anti-Semitic. It's like just because it's the one in the Jewish one, he's the father
Dude,
of
it
Satan.
absolutely is anti-Semitic. Yeah.
That's so crazy though. But like I get that though. Like I know there's like a lot of people who do think like the Old Testament shit and like or like the New Testament.
Oh, I'm kind of one of those. I like the new God,
Yeah.
the New Testament God. He's so much more like fun and loving,
peaceful and
and
loving.
just like, hey, love, baby.
Yeah, bro.
And a whole lot
And-
less, let's smite everything.
Yeah, bro. It's like the book had like a whole like a whole thesis statement change. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like we're not about
that's
this
actually
shit
a really
anymore,
good way
bro.
of putting it.
Oh yeah. It's like we're not about that shit anymore, guys. Come on.
No.
You don't want to eat that
Yeah,
shit?
no,
Come on,
'cause
it's yummy. It's yummy.
Jesus was a hippie, hands down.
Yeah, dude. Jesus was a revolutionary.
He was.
So there was a very strange reconstruction from the papal, that is for those of you who are less educated in Catholic matters, related to the Pope, the Papal Commission in 1311. And they surmise that this head might have come from a tale, like a story, not like thing that comes out of your butthole, of a nobleman who had committed necrophilia with a dead woman. That means he did sexy things with her.
God, we know!
Hey, it's a genetic disorder, okay? It's not a choice. It's like obesity, like in Dodgeball, he says that. If anything, if anything can get stranger, all right? A disembodied voice then told the man to carry her head around with him. The papacy thought that maybe this head, which was said to have superhuman powers, fell into the hands of the Templars. And so, yeah, do you want to elaborate on that, Matt?
But I mean, it's just about the papacy. So the Papal Commission was like trying to figure out where the hell to even connect these dots, because all these Templars were talking about these severed head, and they were like, well, maybe it could be, this old wives' tale about this nobleman who committed necrophilia with this dead woman, and then it was said that it had magical powers and that it fell into the hands of the Templars, and I don't know, maybe that's how they got so wealthy, but the Pope seems to be stretching. Going back to Baphomet, one of the heads was supposedly named Baphomet, which is a name that's gone down in infamy, especially in recent years, because it's cropped up in modern occultism. This goes back to Alphonse Levy. So let's start at the basics. So where the etymology of the word Baphomet, scholars believe was a corruption of the name of the Islamic prophet. See, in Islam, there are 2 names for Muhammad. There's Muhammad, and then there's the alternative, Mohammed.
So basically, it looks like the Templars were charged with worshiping Muhammad. That's what people are thinking. And so, had the Templars secretly converted to Islam in the Holy Land. All my brain can think of, though, is just like having like Muslim friends. I feel like if they were presented with this idea that the fucking Templars had the head of Muhammad like at their side giving them advice, I feel like they would find that so blasphemous. Like, what the
I'm
fuck?
sure, dude.
They're like, no, his head was in heaven already, okay?
I mean, you're not even allowed to have any icons of Muhammad. Like, that's blasphemy,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, dude, South Park had that episode when I was growing up where, like, they were just having somebody in a sheet and they were saying it's Muhammad. And, like, I think Comedy Central didn't air it because there was so much backlash from Islam.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's wild, man. But it is common knowledge that many of the Templar churches do incorporate Muslim symbolism as well as Christian into their designs. And the Templars, the magnanimous, kind benefactors that they were, even let many Muslims pray at Catholic churches in the Holy Land, which many in Christendom, would have seen as an affront to God, but the Templars were like more chill about it. And they did also in history have close dealings with the Saracens, the Sunni Muslims in the East. And
You said
a lot
all
of
those so wrong. Sunni
What?
Muslims.
What did I say? Did I say Sunni?
You said the Sunni Muslims, I'm pretty sure you said.
Well, you know what? I appreciate the correction, Matt, but at least I could say carbunkled, all right?
Oh my god.
Ow. I didn't know I said that wrong.
No, I'm just kidding, bro. No, okay, so wait, is Saracens right, though? Saracens?
Yeah. Saracens is right.
Okay, so Saracens and Sunni Muslims, and the others are Shiites, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but so the Templars had relations with the Sunni Muslims in the East, and a lot of them even learned Arabic, and so they were very, like, worldly people, just trying to communicate with those in the area. So it might not be too big of a stretch that, possibly the Baphomet head giving advice.
So one historian explains that during the Crusades, the Muslim world was actually far more advanced, technologically speaking, and even culturally. And when the Templars came to the Holy Land, they had to confront this and had to adapt. And they were fighting a group of people that were decades ahead of them. So some believe that the Templars were swayed into Islamic beliefs.
Yeah, and even if not converting, then welcoming certain aspects of Islam into their own worship is what it seems like. Because there are a lot of churches around Europe that the Templars built that have Muslim symbolism incorporated in their design.
Well, and to also think, like, from an old world perspective, if you saw a Christian man speaking Arabic, like, that alone is probably threw up some red flags.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be too hard to sway public opinion to get people to think that way.
Yeah.
I
That's a good
mean,
point.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, like, we're still dealing with that kind of stuff today. Like, if somebody has a turban on and they're in an airport, people give them strange looks.
Even me, as liberated and millennial and leftist as I am, if I saw a white guy and he just started speaking Arabic on the phone, like, I think instinctively I'd just be like, what the fuck? Like, even without thinking, it would just kind of, like, set an alarm off, like, oh, that's not, like, a normal thing. Even though there's probably plenty of people like that these days,
Well, it's like in Rush Hour 3, where there's the Asian guy who's speaking French, and then there's Chris Tucker.
I know, we just don't expect... Bro, I just came from Australia, and obviously my girlfriend is Asian Australian, and she, like, asked me this, like, you didn't, like, think there were, like Asians in Australia? And I was like, I guess I didn't really think about it. But just, like, meeting, like, so many, like, different people with Australian accents, like, of course now, yeah, it makes sense that they're, like, as diverse as the States. And there's people who've grown up there from all different kinds of countries. But before I went there, I did expect, mostly just white people to have the accent.
Yeah. I think that's just our way of, like, compartmentalizing and being like, okay, seeing patterns. And, like, I don't know how many people of, like, Asian people I've seen with in Australia. I don't think I've seen any. Ever.
Yeah,
so
bro.
it just would be like a, whoa, a little bit like a culture shock.
And so basically it wouldn't be too hard to sway public opinion into thinking that these people are heretics or worshippers of Islam.
Yeah. So then there's also the idea that Baphomet was a bastardization, obviously, of Muhammad by Europeans, but it also could have been just a blanket term for a false idol. So Muhammad could have just been a blanket term for any false idol that was worshipped in Christendom.
Yeah. Oh, there's another Baphomet.
Yeah.
There's another
Also,
Baphomet.
I just want to say, Kevin, thank you for bringing us back.
Yeah, no, no problem.
No, dude, Baphomet. It was like the OK Boomer of 1300s.
Oh my gosh.
Okay,
Oh
Bob.
yeah,
like,
to be like
okay, Baphomet.
anytime you hear somebody do anything that's not Christ-like, okay, Baphomet.
Yeah. What do you mean you ate
Jesus.
meat on a Friday? Okay, Baphomet.
So Baphomet. A lot of people out there probably know Baphomet as a symbol of Satanism, because there was that whole thing in the news where that one satanic activist revealed that in the Church of Satan, he had just erected this, I think it was like a bronze statue of their rendition of Baphomet. So Baphomet,
Oh my God.
in this rendition of Alphonse Levy, way back, like this is like, 200 years ago, Alphonse Levy took Baphomet from the Templars during this whole conspiracy and created a new interpretation of it. And this time it was a sabbatic goat, the same sabbatic goat that the Satanists just used for their statue.
Oh my gosh.
This sabbatic goat depicts an androgynous being with a goat's head. One hand points to the heaven, while another points to the earth, echoing that infamous phrase. It's an occult phrase, as above, so below. But I mean, I think that's probably all we're going to go into, because there's so much symbolism in this sabbatic goat, in this Baphomet, this rendition of Baphomet, that you could go on forever. But
That's
mainly,
so weird.
it's all about good and evil and light and darkness being two sides of the same coin, and therefore good and evil are one and the same. So it's kind of like saying, like, there is no difference between God and the devil. All that really matters, and this goes to like a lot of Gnosticism, is all that matters is knowledge.
There we go. I like that. I mean, I don't necessarily believe all that, but I like that. Can I also just say, bro, whatchamacallit?
What's up?
How fucking Satanist is it that they erected something? You know what I mean? Of course they would erect something.
You were saving that joke for this entire time.
Oh, you know it, bro. With all their
Jeremy.
fucking orgies, bro, and their fucking virgin blood sacrifices. Typical, bro. Typical.
Well, it is Aleister Crowley, who we're about to talk about right now. He promoted sex magic. So he did a lot of fucking weird shit.
What do you mean sex magic?
You have to get my magic out, ladies.
Sex magic, and like, I'm sure people out there probably know a little bit more than I do, but sex magic is like, you don't masturbate for like 2 weeks, maybe a month, and then you think on a goal of yours, like what you really want. It's like manifestation. And then while you're thinking about it really fucking hardcore, you're fucking, and then you just, you finally release that huge surge of sexual energy, and that's supposed to like put your goals into the universe to start like, almost to like, it's supposed to be, quote, magic, but it's supposed to make your goals happen.
Oh, what the hell, bro? Dude, that actually reminds me of, I read, do you guys know that book, Think and Grow Rich? It's like the #1 self-help book ever.
No.
No, but it's like, so there was like a dude who, what's his name? Napoleon Hill, like around the time of like Rockefeller and Carnegie, all those guys. He like spent decades studying success and successful men, and just made a book of like, what are the commonalities with all of them? And there's a whole chapter on this thing called sex transmutation. And it's similar to that. It's similar to that, except it's not about jacking off and releasing it, but it's saying that with men, the argument is that the strongest motivating energy is sexual energy, and the desire to, attract and please women, all these things. And it's saying one of the reasons they think a lot of these men were not successful until their 40s is because they didn't realize this until then. In their 20s and 30s, they're just wasting a lot of that energy, like just trying to sleep with girls, being reckless, doing all these kinds of crazy things. But then when they kind of are more abstinent, and instead of using that energy to go do dumb stuff, they use that energy to actually work toward their specific goals. They just have way more motivation and like capacity for, doing the things that make them successful.
I think there's a lot of truth in that, just in my own experiences.
Yeah, and so basically this Alistair guy, except for the coming part, I think he was onto some good stuff.
So we have 2 quotes here from Aleister Crowley about Baphomet and the work, quote, major quotes, that he did with Baphomet.
Here we go. Aleister Crowley said...
And also, put on an accent. We're doing accents.
Oh, of course I will. I was getting that
God.
accent so ready, bro. I was getting it so
Where's
ready.
he from?
He's English, by the way. Yeah, he's English.
okay.
He's English, so he's going to be... Okay, here we go. Aleister Crowley. The devil does not exist. It is a false name invented by the Black Brothers to apply a unity in their ignorant muddle of dispersions. A devil who had unity would be a god. The devil is, historically, the god of any people that one personally dislikes. This serpent, Satan, is not the enemy of man, but he who made gods of our race. Knowing good and evil, he bade, know thyself, and taught initiation. He is the devil of the book of Thoth, and his emblem is
Thoth being
Baphomet.
the Egyptian god of, I believe, knowledge. All right, Jeremy, go on.
Thoth, the Egyptian god of knowledge, and his emblem is Baphomet, the androgyne, androgyny. One of the two pronunciations, who is the hieroglyph of arcane perfection. He is therefore life and love. But moreover, his letter is iron, the eye, so that he is light, and his zodiacal, what the fuck? Like relating
Zodiacal,
to
yeah.
zodiac?
Yeah,
related
yeah,
to the
yeah.
zodiac signs. His zodiacal image is Capricornus, that leaping goat whose attribute is liberty.
What does that even mean?
Dude, this guy just talks in circles, man. Like,
Why did we even read that? I don't. The guy's a weirdo.
guy
Aleister
is a
Crowley's a
weirdo.
weirdo. He's a weirdo. Summary. Jesus.
yeah, but he's talking about Baphomet. Okay, so later on, dude, can I actually read this one? Because
Go for it.
It's
Please,
fucking
Matt, please.
just this guy talks in circles, but he is one of the most infamous and famed occultists, I think, ever. Aleister Crowley. I mean, you probably heard his name. So I had taken the name Baphomet as my motto in the OTO, Ordo Templi Orientis, or rather known as the Order of Oriental Templars.
Racist.
For 6 years and more, I had tried to discover the proper way to spell this name. I knew it must have 8 letters, and also that the numeral and literal correspondences must be such as to express the meaning of the name in such a way as to confirm what scholarship had found out about it, and also to clear up those problems which archaeologists had so far failed to solve. One theory of the name is that it represents the word, the baptism of wisdom. Another is that it is a corruption of the title, meaning Father Mithras. Needless to say, the suffix "r" supported the latter theory. I added up the words as spelt by the wizard. It totaled 729. This number, I know, dude, this guy is fucking
Fuck,
nuts.
bro.
This
Dude.
number had never appeared in my Kabbalistic workings, and therefore meant nothing to me. It, however, justified itself as being the cube of 9. The word Kephas, the mystic title given by Christ to Peter as the cornerstone of the church, has the same value. So far, the wizard had shown a great quality. He had cleared the etymological problems and shown why the Templars should have given the name Baphomet to the so-called idol. Baphomet was Father Mithras, the cubical stone which was the corner of the temple.
Now, why did we read that? Why?
because I
want to be friends
Yeah,
with this guy.
Jeremy?
Sorry, you were saying, Matt?
No, dude. Yeah, wait. You want to be friends with this guy?
That's
this
it,
guy
bro.
would probably he'd fuck you up mentally, I think.
Dude, I'm fucking down for it, bro. I wish this guy taught me at CalArts. And he's like, this,
This
one
guy did
totaled.
teach us at CalArts. Are you kidding me? He did nothing but speak in circles and make no goddamn sense.
It
was there in
totaled
spirit.
683. It totaled 444. Jeremy, where is my abacus?
This is
Yeah.
this is asinine. What?
It is. But he
Why
talks
did we
about
subject the
Baphomet.
listeners to this? Why? I'm sorry if you're listening. Jesus.
Because okay, the reason we had to bring that up is because the Templars have been steeped in occultism, and Freemasons have said that they are the descendants of the Templars. And I'm not sure if he was a part of the Freemasons, Aleister Crowley, but I know for certain that he was deep within the occult, and Freemasons are deep within the occult.
really?
Yeah.
Let me go deep.
they have
bro.
tons of occult symbolism, and their shit is weird.
There were countless Freemasons who wrote about Baphomet and its connection with the Templars. Some suggest that Baphomet, when deciphered, meant Sophia, which in Greek means wisdom. Others claim that Baphomet was a coded amalgam of words that it taken apart were codes for separate schools of alchemy. Whatever Baphomet has become, however, is most likely not at all what the Templars worshipped 700 years ago, if they even worshipped it. What had them thrown in prison and tortured? Yet it's said that some Templars escaped the raid on their temples back in France, back when, like, you know, the French king was like, I'm going to kill all of you. And so Friday the 13th in 1307, it said that some of the Templars escaped. Well, it's actually, I don't know if it's said to have that they escaped or they definitely escaped.
Well, there were 24 knights that supposedly fled. 12 of those knights were actually on the roster of. They had warrants out for their arrest signed by the king. So the king really wanted these 12 knights. And we believe that some of those knights were the ones that took wagons in the dead of night. And these wagons had hay on them. And it's believed that they might have hidden the treasure underneath this hay. And from there, from Paris, they traveled to La Rochelle. And then this is all where it becomes speculation of, did they travel to Scotland? Because some people say that they traveled to Scotland, where Robert the Bruce, the Scottish king, gave them safe harbor. But
and this is where it gets really cool, in my opinion.
yes,
Yes, fascinating.
Yes.
Dude, can I just say, before we get too much into the treasure, like for me, the biggest trip of learning about the Templars is just the whole that Friday the 13th came from their whole, like, you know, destruction in France. And, like, it's crazy to think, like, damn, bro, Jason Voorhees movies wouldn't exist if the crazy French king never, like, tried to destroy the Templars. And so, you know, horror cinema owes a lot to the Templars' downfall.
Wow.
Thank
dude.
you, Jeremy.
That was
so insightful.
Like, deep.
You know what?
And yeah,
That was
insightful.
deep.
I think what I'm here for is I just make the connections that nobody else does, you know, and you're welcome for that.
The pop culture connections.
That should be
Okay.
the name of, like, a band or, like, possibly
The pop
another
culture
podcast.
connections. Yeah. Okay. And so the treasure. All right. So what Matt, what's the, what's the evidence, I guess, for the different theories?
I just want to talk a little bit about, like, what the treasure was rumored to be.
Oh, yeah, that'd be
'Cause,
great.
yeah, their entire wealth, obviously, and then it could have possibly been the Holy Grail, along with high-profile relics such as King Solomon's golden menorah or the Ark of the Covenant, Covenant, and fragment of the cross. So that's what we're dealing with, and people for just forever, it's captured their imaginations, and they want to find these relics along with the Templar treasure because it could be so vast.
It could be huge. Like, literally, we're talking about the Holy Grail. We're talking about the most significant fragments from Christian history. They would be the biggest treasures in the world. Yeah.
We're about to talk about Rosslyn Chapel, which actually is one of the sites in Dan Brown's book. Oh God, what was that book called? What? It wasn't Angels and
The Da
Demons.
Vinci Code.
The Da Vinci Code.
Code,
Yeah. So at
yeah.
the very end, that whole scene takes place in Rosslyn Chapel, which is in Scotland, which supports the theory, this whole theory that they went to Scotland.
So Rosslyn Chapel, it is theorized that. Okay, so picture this: Friday the 13th, 1307. 24 knights get the hell out of Paris because they know the king is about to be a dick, and then
And in this situation, King Philip is definitely Jason. Just to keep in line with the analogy.
yes, and then
He's
so
coming with his machete.
and then it said that these knights fled to La Rochelle, a coastal town in France, and then they hopped on board some ships, went to Scotland, and they were offered protection there. And then some of the people that were left over from the Knights Templar created this chapel called Rosslyn Chapel, and it in itself is kind of got a lot of conspiracies around it, but some of the main ones is that it used to house like it was a temporary holding site for the Holy Grail. That was very highly theorized. It's also kind of nutty because the chapel was the chapel was finished, and before Columbus set sail the ocean blue, and like found corn or maize or any of that stuff, there was already depictions of corn on Roslyn Chapel, and like. Up until that time, Europeans didn't know what corn was.
Yeah, they didn't. It's totally native to the Americas. So 6 years. So it was finished 6 years before Columbus even set out. And yet, they are. You can clearly see that this looks a shit ton like corn. And yet it would have had no place in Europe beforehand.
So, does that mean aliens brought South Americans to Scotland to work on the chapel, Matt? Is that what this means?
I was thinking more like the Templars might have been privy to certain information, possibly, that the laymen of Europe were not privy to.
Okay, here's my theory. I think that one sounds logical and reasonable. Like somehow, we don't know exactly how. My theory, the aliens pulled up in front of Home Depot down in South America, and we're like, hey, we're working on a church. And they're like, all right, all right.
God.
They hopped in the fucking beam, all right?
Jeremy.
This is bad. That was bad.
They were like, tag the wall. I'll put corn on the wall.
Christopher Columbus had just been born when the chapel was commissioned to be built.
By a man named Prince Henry Sinclair.
Yes.
So the Sinclairs were the ones who owned the land. They were previously named the St. Clairs, but later transitioned to Sinclairs.
They always have these weird fucking names, don't they?
But yeah, I think it was his grandson who ended up finishing the project, what was it, like 70 or 80 years later? Well, there are other strange things about Roslyn Temple. Like, there are these cubes that are hanging from the ceiling, and people believe that each cube, like, they have, like, these symbols on them, and some people think that they're musical symbols, and that these symbols correspond to a type of musical semantics, and which uses musical vibrations to align dust. Which you've probably seen those videos where, they have sand on a sheet and they have like music blasting the sheet and the dust starts aligning to certain patterns. Have you guys seen those videos?
Yeah. It's like the vibrations are visible through the grains.
Yeah. So it'd be kind of like that. So apparently some people think that if you were able to decode the symbols, they might unlock some sort of hidden passageway or something into the bowels of Roslyn Chapel where there may be the Holy Grail.
Like if you play the music just right.
I bet you it goes just like this. Do 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 do. No,
that was a piss poor attempt at doing
is that
X-Files theme song.
Yeah, I fucked it up. Shut up. Oh, but also this part of Scotland has a ton of alien sightings, by the way.
Okay.
So much that the local politicians have tried talking to the prime minister to start like a formal investigation.
Yeah. That's how many. That's a lot to be like, okay, like for an actual member of the government to be like, all right, guys, we got to figure out what the fuck is going on, because they were getting 300 UFO sightings per year.
It's 300 per year in this part of Scotland.
Damn, man, and especially in a place too that's just, I mean, that's so connected to the Templars and like mysterious buildings and these kind of telltale signs from a lot of other mysteries that we've studied, like the pyramids, you know what I mean, where just things are kind of inexplicable, unless you factor in some kind of, superhuman force, or at least beyond our current realm of knowledge. Also, what if it'd be so funny, like if in Roslyn Chapel, everybody's trying to have like the most complex, like musical, whatever, notes and melodies to try to get the portal open. What if it was just like, you just had to get like a recorder and just play like Mary Had a Little Lamb and just like on your little, and it's like, oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
A little passageway opens up.
I know. It's like, of course, the Templars weren't musicians.
There are some other like very, very strange things. Like there's one theory that Rosalind Chapel is actually a portal to another fucking universe.
That's my favorite. That's
And
my
a
favorite
famed-
theory.
Yeah, dude. A famed author,
All
Brian
comes
Allen.
back to this, yeah.
Yeah. He wrote extensively on this theory.
His first name
It
is
is-
Brain, so come on. He's got to know what he's talking about.
No, it is. It's Brian. I think I just misspelled that.
You having a typo?
No.
You don't say.
No.
Well, he wrote in his book. He describes that there are frequencies around Rosalind Chapel that you can pick up on that match the signature of the portal. How the fuck he knows this? I have no idea.
What's the signature of the portal? Is it like
I don't know.
This man sounds insane.
Did the portal sign a check and Brian Allen found it and was like, oh, there's the portal signature.
Good one, bro.
Thank you.
He
That
actually
was one of my
says
worst jokes,
frequency.
but I'm glad I said it. Oh, fuck.
Some believe that there are several underground chambers that are blocked off underneath the chapel.
Although there are chambers underneath the chapel, all of them are tombs, but there are people that insist that they are tunnels and the chambers are all interconnected. And they believe that disturbing these underground chambers could make the foundation unsafe and possibly crumble. So am I right to say that there are people who, like, they believe it's something that other people are saying it's not, but just because nobody wants to go down there and check it because of how delicate it is, like, they're unable to get the actual answer of what it is?
Yes.
Yeah. There was
Okay.
there was a caretaker of the chapel before I think it got really, really big. And this might have actually contributed to all the conspiracy theories. He dug a hole because I guess he was digging for something, and he all of a sudden found like this underground cavern that he went into, and so he supposedly found gold down there. But when he came back up, he like got the people that owned the property, the Sinclairs, and he got some officials in the local government to come by. But nobody really wanted to go down there. But they did throw down, I think they threw down like a coin or whatever, and they could hear that there was like an echo down there. So like it sounded like there was a cavern, but it was too unsafe to go down there. Was the thing.
If there was treasure, you bet your ass people would have gotten ropes and climbed down there themselves.
Maybe, but if it's so unsafe that it could collapse on you, would you want to go down there? Would you want to risk your life?
No. I'll just play Rocket League.
don't. I'll just have
Make
fun.
that Twitch money.
Yeah, make that Twitch money.
Yeah, Twitch money, bro.
So basically, Rosalind Chapel is theorized to be built by former Knights Templar, and which would explain like the treasure theories around Rosalind Chapel, it temporarily housing the Holy Grail secretly, and then this kind of tie in with like with corn and Europeans not knowing what that is. One theory on how the Templars would have known about this is that the Templars, when they got to Scotland, traveled the old Viking routes to North America, because little known fact, it is known today, like pretty recently, within the last like 80 years. No, I think the last 60. I think it was 1960 that they discovered that the Vikings had been to North America by the year 1000. So they had been there 500 years before Columbus. The theory is that the Templars took the old Viking routes to what is now present-day Nova Scotia in Canada.
Hold on, Nova Scotia is in Canada? Can we do an episode
dude.
about that?
Why?
I didn't know that, man. That was a mystery to me. No, I'm just kidding.
Jesus. But it is said that once the Templars, because remember the Templars escaped to Scotland, this Rosalind Chapel was a temporary home for the Holy Grail, and then it is theorized that the Templars took the old Viking routes over to North America and there tried to create their own civilization or their own...
like their own colony.
Yeah, because the Templars had never had their own section of land. Remember, they could travel wherever they want throughout Europe, but they never had their home base where they could live out their own ideals.
But actually, funny enough, the Templars, they were thinking, like, towards the end, when they had amassed so much wealth and, you know, the Crusades weren't going on anymore and they didn't really have a purpose, they were kind of thinking about creating their own monastic state.
Whoa.
So it's not completely out of the question that they would want to go to North America, set up a colony, I guess in Nova Scotia. You know, some people want to do that and, you know, build their own community.
And exactly.
Whoa.
And with them, they took these treasures like the Holy Grail, Ark of the Covenant, and yada, yada, yada. And they took these over with them. And then the colony after Oak Island, this is the name of the island. And by the way, you guys can look this up. The Oak Island, it is currently being excavated for treasures. And it has been for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of insane. The island has been privately owned by people seeking treasure for forever.
And it is like the teeniest little island. It's you can walk across it in like something like 30 minutes, and it's like 600 feet off the coast of Nova Scotia. Might I just say, one of the members of the treasure hunter groups, I think it was like it was before his presidency. He was 27 years old. Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Oh,
What?
okay.
I
Isn't
didn't
that
read about
interesting?
that.
FDR was all about the Templars, huh?
Oh yeah, dude. These people weren't completely convinced that it was Templar treasure, because there was also another legend out there that Captain William Kidd, the famous pirate, that he actually went on the record and said that he had buried a treasure in the area of Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
So people theorize that this may have been his treasure. And there's some fucking weird shit going on with this sinkhole, this quote money pit,
Yeah,
where so many people have been digging.
And there's so many articles about this money pit. And so one excavation, they dig down something like 90 feet, which is a lot of feet. Mind you, this is on an island. So it's...
I had no idea if you hadn't told me. 90 feet?
Shut up. So keep in mind, this is on an island. So they're already just above sea level. And then they dig down 90 feet. And so they dig down 90 feet, and they go, and then they find these horizontally placed boards about every 5 to 10 feet. And some of them are matted with like coconut fibers, which were used to protect cargo during, like in the Caribbean.
Which lends to the idea that it might be the treasure of Captain William Kidd.
Yes. And which I don't know what the timeline for William Kidd is, because like the Templars would have been there first. For sure. But what they found at 90 feet was not treasure, but it was actually a stone tablet with strange collection of symbols carved into it. And I don't have any pictures of it. I wish I could show people. But a professor of languages, James. Yeah, professor of languages, James, last name I can't pronounce, claimed to
Lychee?
Lychee,
yeah.
baby. I love getting that in my milk tea.
A professor of languages, James Lychee, claimed to have decoded it in the 1860s. If his decipher is correct, then the tablet says 40 feet below, 2 million pounds are buried.
So they believe that whoever wrote that, based on how it was phrased, is that they were probably English, and that they were eccentric.
Yes. And at 98 feet, so they remember they dug to 90, found this tablet. At 98 feet, they arrived at another grouping of horizontally placed logs. But at this point, they decided to retire for the day, which is so mightily convenient.
Retired, dude.
Well, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, like I said, 90 feet. Then they have to dig down another 8 feet under,
So many
on an
feet,
island.
bro.
It's a lot of feet. And so when they retired for the day, the next day they returned to the site, and the pit had been completely filled with water.
It was
all 98
Sabotage.
feet. Yeah, and they feverishly tried to drain the pit back out, but every bucket of water they removed, the pit instantly filled it up. And it seemed like the pit was designed to toy with treasure hunters, because they went down 114 feet with an auger and were excited when they found 3 gold links. But their journey ended when they came back to find the hole filled with water again. That rose and fell with the tides.
Yeah, and that made them scratch their heads. So it was probably like coming in from it was salty water as well. So it was clearly like it was water. It's an island, and I mean that doesn't even really seem like a trap anymore. It just seems like
that's just how nature works.
Yeah, and they tried to put boards around the sides to make sure that the water wasn't getting in, but even after that, all the water that they would take out would just fill right back up again.
Yeah.
And there have been several attempts after that to, dig further down. I mean, who the fuck? There's clearly something down there, unless someone's really just fucking with them, because there was a fucking tablet that said 40 feet below, 2 million pounds are buried.
And keep in mind, I said that people are currently excavating this like now. Like there's a video that came out 5 days ago. It's like on Nat Geo. I watched it.
Nice.
But there's so much treasure hunting going on this island that they actually, because it's this small island is just like right off the coast. And so somebody built a bridge and a commercial road to connect it to mainland Nova Scotia. That way they could get heavy equipment out there. And
that's so funny.
Yeah, they're like, these people are effing determined.
Well,
but
dude, I'm sorry. After you see a tablet that says that, even if the decipher is wrong, and Professor James Lecce, if he was wrong, and he deciphered it, and all what he just said was bullshit, the fact that they even found a tablet that had a cipher on it is pretty damn good evidence that there is something down there. And all the logs that are horizontally placed every few, I guess it's every few 10 feet, 8 feet. There's got to be something down there, unless Captain William Kidd was just having a laugh.
Yeah.
Well, and William Kidd's just one theory about the treasures on Oak Island.
Right. It could have been the Templars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, this island it's the place, man. We could
Because
do a whole
there's some shit
podcast
going
on
on
this.
And there are
There you
also
go.
several reasons why it could have been the Templars. I didn't put it in the outline, but I think I can just get it off the top of my head. One of the theories, or some of the evidence that it might be the Templars, is that on Oak Island there is a Latin cross, a huge Latin cross made out of boulders, which people think is almost like an X marks the spot. There's also other things.
That's very
the
interesting.
Micmac people that live in Northern America. Shut up, Jeremy.
Don't laugh, Kevin. That's your ancestors.
Oh my god.
The Micmac people, they have legends of blue-eyed people coming to them, which we think might have been the Templars.
Or the Vikings.
Or the Vikings. That's certainly it. Or the
Yeah.
Vikings.
There's definitely some history going on there. Definitely some things to unearth. Can I say, guys, I came up with my own theory. Maybe we can do an adventure on our own. When you were talking about, they set up to North America, to build their own city, perhaps. Figure out, if I was a Templar, what would I call my city? Templeton, right? Obviously. So I Googled Templeton, USA. Templeton is a census-designated place in San Luis Obispo County, California. The population was 7,674 at the 2010 census. So I think I found the treasure, guys, and I think when we can get a road trip going, we'll go. We'll have a dig in Templeton. But anyway, where were we?
That's actually on the way to LA, so I'm down for some excavating. We'll get our pickaxes. We'll start
okay.
digging next to the government building.
I'm good.
Me and Matt are only searching churches and anywhere that looks like maybe severed heads were worshipped. That's it.
Definitely in the
my
government
God.
buildings, dude. So let's put it all together. Let's put all these disparate ideas together, and let's try to form a narrative.
It is believed that the Templars left the night before the raid, when we're talking about in France, with a wagon train of a bed full of hay with the treasure buried beneath. And they went to La Rochelle, boarded 18 galleys, and disappeared. And
So
yeah.
that was a part of someone's testimony, one of the Templar testimonies. So that, and we don't really know if it is true because it was under torture, but that kind of sets up this whole narrative. So
Yeah.
Go, Jerry.
And then
Popcorn.
Andrew Sinclair, who we mentioned earlier, the author of The Sword and the Grail, he claimed that the Templars went north up to Scotland, which ties back to the church that we were talking about earlier. And they met up with the St. Clair family, later known as just the Sinclairs, where they constructed the Roslin building to house the Holy Grail. However, they took the Grail out and traveled with it to Nova Scotia. And using the Sinclair's wealth, Henry Sinclair, who had by then become the Grand Master of the Order, hired the Zeno brothers to explore Greenland and North America to find a suitable home for the Grail, a kind of permanent resting place.
Also, so just like the Zeno brothers, apparently they, in their journeys, they were both Venetian, and they claimed to have explored Iceland and going into the North America area. They claim that.
But at the time, they didn't know North America obviously was they didn't know it was a continent. They just thought it was like a big island.
Yeah, possibly. That's definitely possible. Yeah, because we only think that it was North America because of how they described it. And it links up with the topography of those areas in North America. And they sailed under the commander, I think his name was like Zixi. I'm probably butchering that name. But there was a publication that was released in, I think it was 1860, that believed that this commander that they were sailing under was actually Henry Sinclair, who was the man that commissioned the temple the Chapel of Roslin.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, dang.
So it just kind of all like links up. But go on, Jeremy.
They may have established a colony on Oak Island, but much like the Roanoke colony, they couldn't sustain it, and it slowly crumbled. And so it's very possible that with a failed colony, the Templars, instead of lugging the treasure back to Europe, just buried it where they already were. So they created a vast money pit with flood traps to keep it hidden, and to mark the spot, they constructed a Latin cross made of boulders. But there also is the possibility that that treasure is not of the Templars, and is of the infamous pirate, Captain William Kidd, who did admit to bearing an unspecified amount of treasure in the area.
Guys, we really need to do a podcast on Oak Island.
We do. Wait, are you still looking at it online?
I mean, not currently, but I was before we podcasted. I was going down a deep rabbit hole with that.
It is a deep rabbit hole. I was doing the same thing, and I was like, I have to cut myself off because it's too much.
And it's surrounded in mystery and history, which is kind of our thing.
So I think that's kind of like the end of the road. All this is conjecture, but if you kind of form it into some sort of narrative, that's kind of what it seems like. They went to Scotland with the treasure, hired some Venetians to take them to North America, where they set up a colony, but the colony failed. They buried the treasure there, and now people are just, they want to get their money on that treasure. And it's enlightened people's. Man, I mean, I'm inspired to go and dig for that treasure now.
Until you get there and you're like, well, this thing just keeps filling up with water.
How much water is in this goddamn world?
Yeah, that's what they were saying. They were like, well, you kind of have to drain the entire ocean to be able to get to this treasure. So it's also theorized that when they were constructing the Roslin Chapel, that they were transitioning from Templars to Freemasons. And a lot of Freemasons will tell you that. I think they like the lineage, that their ancestral body was were the Templars.
Well, and it makes sense because they were just persecuted for being the Knights Templar, and so it would make sense that they would change their name to something else.
The strange thing about there are major differences, and if you believe that the Templars were actually heretics, then it actually makes sense. But the Templars, when they were inducted into the order, they had to claim that God was their deity. Mm-hmm. But when you become a Freemason, you can choose any deity that you want. It doesn't have to be the Catholic God.
Oh.
Or the Christian God. Yeah.
Well, that's a fun little choose your own adventure.
Yeah, dude.
Oh my gosh. All right.
I mean, it's certainly possible. It's fanciful. I like to believe it. I like to believe that the Templars are still kicking in the Freemasons.
Yeah. Just like the spirit, the lineage. There's something being passed on, you know.
Yeah.
Like there's just so much. There's so much cool like specified knowledge and experience that it would be a shame to think that it had died, you know.
Yeah. And you know,
Yeah,
the
it
world
wasn't
needs a
worth
little bit of mystery, I think. A
Yeah,
little bit
bro.
of mysteries of histories, if you would.
Mysteries of history.
So, what do we each think happened? Like, what do we each think happened?
Who wants
Jeremy?
to rock paper? Okay, yeah. So I mean, I know that we've obviously this is not necessarily what we've been like talking about and what a lot of the information online suggests, but just because of what I would have done in their situation, I feel like the Templars like split up, you know, like the galleys, and I feel like it could be possible that there is some treasure, you know, in Scotland, in Nova Scotia, in Templeton, California, but just my gut, is telling me that definitely somehow aliens are involved and transported
Yeah.
South Americans around the world. And I just feel like a lot of the treasures, because like they probably had so much fucking treasure over their rule that like, yeah, sure, the relics I think are in various locations around the world, but I also feel like gold and jewels and things like that would just be also in various locations around the world. And so that's my final word is like, I feel like, yes, there's a good chance the treasure is in, like, there is treasure of some sort in the places we mentioned, but I feel like the Templar treasure is also spread out into, like, a lot of different places.
Yeah.
Probably throughout, like, my guess would be, like, throughout, like, the Middle East and Africa, primarily, you know?
That's a good fucking theory, Jeremy.
Well, thanks, Matt. What do you guys think? Matt, Kevin?
I think, yeah, when they fled France, like they took all their stuff with them. So I think there's probably like the lesser relics are just like around Europe. But I feel like Rosslyn Chapel probably has the big ones. You know, like the piece of the cross and the Holy Grail and all those. And then I feel like the trip to Nova Scotia happened, but I don't think all the Templars went with. Like, I don't think they were just like, guys, we're gonna go make our own thing over here. I don't know, but it just feels like Nova Scotia is so far away. Like, you know, that's not, if you look that up on a map, that's not an easy voyage, especially if they were going the old Viking routes, because that means they went through like Greenland, Iceland, and then they looked through all these places in North America, or like in, you know, northern Nova Scotia before they got down to Oak Island. But there's probably some treasure in Oak Island too from...
God, there has to be.
There's some treasure there, bro.
But we'll talk more about that treasure on the next podcast.
Hell yeah.
Okay, but before, Matt, do you want to cover your theory on what went down?
Absolutely. So I'm gonna go with something that's a little bit more out there. I think that they built Rosslyn Temple. I think that one of these relics actually had some sort of supernatural power that got them in contact with an alien race that was so advanced that they were pretty much like gods, kind of like the alien race in 2001: Space Odyssey. And they came down to the Templars and they synced up, and it was just this symbiotic relationship between the two of them, as the Templars were giving them information about the human race. And so when they were finally being exiled and everything was going to hell, the aliens managed to alert some of the Templars. So the Templars escaped the night before and then traveled to Scotland, where the aliens were like, this is where you must build. You must build chapel here. And this chapel was really a focus point for the aliens to be able to create a sort of portal so that the Templars could finally join them and unite with their alien overlords. Yeah, that's about it.
Amazing. Amazing.
The man who does the most amount of research has the least informed opinion.
That is the theory I wished I could have theorized.
That's a good one. That was right on brand with Tryhouse Tells.
Yes.
There we go. Beautiful. You know what? I think that's a brilliant way to, man. Oh, you know what? I told you guys I would tell you this last time. But I almost forgot because I was so frazzled this morning. But before we conclude for the Templars for now, my only experience with the Templars before this podcast, these podcasts, I guess it was two. I was in 7th grade, and I was in world history class, the honors one. You know, not to brag, but I was. But we were studying the Templars, and I'm not an artist. You know, I drew. I looked up a picture of like a Knight Templar online, and I spent like maybe like an hour or two just trying to like look at it and then draw with like on a piece of paper. And like I drew like I was so proud of this drawing of this Templar with his helmet like holding his shield, you know. I was like, wow, I've never drawn anything this good. Like, wow, I'm a decent drawer. And I showed my teacher, and she's like, oh my God, can I like display this? And I was like, yeah. And I thought it would be temporary. And she put the drawing up in the room. And I never got the drawing back. And I still think about it like, damn, I wish I still had my Templar drawing, or that I at least just had the original and just gave her a copy. And so in a way, I think I can tie that back to the podcast, and that I also have a lost hidden treasure somewhere. Oh my God. It's a mystery of where its final resting place is. Hopefully one day we'll be reunited with a grail of my drawing.
Wow. And with that, I think that's the end of we should all go around and just like give our Instagram handles kind of figure out where you can kind of see our shit.
Okay, so not funny guy on Instagram, on YouTube. I'm gonna be doing a lot more fucking parody videos now that I'm in the States. Just like fucking 2-minute silly shit, man. And whatchamacallit, what else? Twitter, NT funny guy, because I couldn't fit the O in my username. And check out some funny stuff that I do. Kevin?
I stream Rocket League over on Twitch as Tryhouse, and Twitter and Instagram handles are at Real Tryhouse, and as opposed to the fake one, I guess. Whatever, people took those. And
co-opt our group.
Yeah, and on YouTube, just Tryhouse. It's all Rocket League stuff. So.
And then you can find Tryhouse. You can find us on YouTube, Mysteries of Histories, or is it Tryhouse Tells?
It's Tryhouse Tells, Mysteries of Histories, if you want to listen or see this podcast and listen to it on YouTube.
See our beautiful mugs. And also on Instagram, we're at Mysteries of Histories. Don't be fooled by the one that's at Tryhouse Tells, because that used to be our account. But then we lost the account information, and Instagram really makes it hard to get that information back. Anyway, you can find me at Matt Sidway. I don't really post very often on that one. You can probably find me more on like Mysteries of Histories. But thank you guys for joining us. And I guess next week we're talking about Oak Island. Get ready for fucking presidents, treasure hunters, pirates.